I licked my fingers clean when I was done. It was that good. So anyways, moving on. Let me love them together. Let me. I think some people just don't like romance and they haven't figured that out yet. Because like you just don't like romance if you didn't like this book. Well team, today we're going to talk about some hot takes, and these hot takes are from all of you. I'm going to try to enter this video and not get my feelings hurt because today we are discussing 1-star reviews of my favorite books. I have 4 books that I collected reviews for, and by I actually mean one of my dear friends. Shout out to Jacob. If y'all are part of the book club, you know Jakey. And I have not seen any of these 1-star reviews. He has curated this list for me for us to enjoy. So without further ado, let's get into discussing some of the worst reviews for some of the best books, in my opinion. We will be doing a cutesy disclaimer because I just can't have people like taking me too seriously. Like, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. We are going to laugh about these. We can make fun of them. We can have a good time, and like I can still respect that everyone has their own thoughts and opinions. They are allowed to, just as I am allowed to. Let's just have some fun with this. I can't wait to see some hot takes on these books. Hopefully we will have both a fun conversation as well as a thought-provoking conversation. We're going to kick it off with 4 reviews for the Jasad Heir by Sara Hashem. I loved this book. It was one of my top 3 in 2023. So let's see what people's thoughts on it are. I know it's a debut, so I wish I could be more forgiving of this, but the writing was incredibly amateurish. Amateurish? Is that a word? Fact checkers? Is that a word? Let's go on. I know people tend to throw this term around when it's just juvenile sounding internal narration, which can be perfectly suited to a young main character. But in this case, it wasn't even that. The main character's internal monologue wasn't juvenile. Period. I agree with that. But just so stiff and unnatural that it didn't feel believable for being someone's internal thoughts. Our girl has been through a lot, in my opinion. And so I do think she thinks about things in a different way. Awkward metaphors and clunky structured sentences abound. And the dialogue between characters was downright cringeworthy? Trying way too hard to be snarky? Nah, that's where I draw the line. That's where I draw the line. Banter was there. The banter was hitting. The connections were hitting. Please, pack it up, take it home. Even though, I mean, this is pretty well written, but nonetheless. We also had really obvious realizations repeated aloud, as if the author didn't trust the reader to pick up on them. Everything was delivered in this sort of heavy-handed fashion. Okay, well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. There was also so much info dumping and filler, even in the first third of the book. I will say that I will agree. The beginning was a little bit hard to get into because there is world building. You got to be strong of mind to get through world building, which some of us might lack. The main plot had barely even kicked off, and already so many scenes felt like they could have been cut. There was also so much discussion of past events rather than current, that it made me wonder why the story was the one being told. Okay, girl, because her past means a lot for her future. I hate DNFing arcs. Okay, hold on a second. In my opinion, it is fine to give your thoughts on a book if you DNF. You cannot write this big fat review like you actually read this book and then say at the end, I hate DNFing arcs, but I could almost instantly tell this book wouldn't suit my taste. I forced myself to at least give a third of it a try, but after 150 pages, it still hadn't gotten any better. So basically, your review means nothing to me. Sorry, goodbye. I think it's fine to give your thoughts when you DNF. You have to put at the beginning that you DNF'd the book. And truly, I don't think you should really give star ratings when you DNF. That's my opinion. People might feel differently. Unless you're like 70 to 80% of the way through the book, maybe, like 85. Okay, I'll give that to you. You're gonna read 150? No. Bye. That review means nothing to me. We're moving on. Moving on to the next review. Get it off the screen. Let's continue on. The premise of the book was so promising. The unknown heir, to a disgraced nation being found out by the prince of the current ruling people. Yes. Throw in a nationwide battle and some apparent enemies to lovers, and this should have been chef's kiss. But it's not. Whoa, okay. The male lead wants to exterminate the female lead's race and continues to try and kill her regularly whilst blackmailing her. I'm sorry, is that not what you're looking for in enemies to lovers? That's 100% what I'm looking for. So we just have different tastes. That's fine. That's okay. The female lead seems to find this all within character and even stoops to find the male lead attractive at points, which honestly I was confused with. Okay, yeah, how are you confused by that? So I don't think this person has heard of enemies to lovers, really. Let's go on. When I started the book, I assumed the romance was with some other characters because I was like, how do you get past your love interest wanting to kill a race of people who happen to be the race of people you belong to? Yet apparently it's not that big of a deal, just getting kidnapped and blackmailed into fighting for a man who wants you and anyone who is from the same place as you dead. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot going on here. I don't think we can boil it down to that, sweetie. I don't think we can boil it down to just that, okay? Let me love them together. Let me have some joy. Then we move on to the main story, which happens quite late in the book. I do agree with that. There's world building, you guys. There is. It was just rushed and meh. I think this was one of the strongest storylines and world building I have read in the last 2 years, and that's just on facts, okay? I was so excited for this book, and it was one of my anticipated reads. I can't even think of who to recommend this to. Me. You can recommend this to me because it was hot fire flames. I loved every second of it. I licked my fingers clean when I was done. It was that good. So anyways, moving on. This person does preface by saying DNF at 60%. And I appreciate that, and I will read the review having that in mind. I want to preface this by saying I did not hate this book. Okay, there are actually a few elements of it that I really enjoyed, but ultimately the cons outweighed the pros, and I did not have the desire to continue any further. Okay, respectfully sharing your opinion. I'm with you. Overall, the premise of this is good, but feels very copy and paste from Throne of Glass. I have nothing to say on that because I have not read Throne of Glass, so I will just let that statement be. I love Throne of Glass, so I didn't mind that as much. What really turned me off of it was the writing. It's incredibly choppy and feels like the narrator doesn't know where she's taking the story every few paragraphs. The world building seems interesting, but the author overcomplicates it to the point that 60% in, I'm so confused. She drops names and other rules, past and present, so much in the beginning without clear explanation of who is who and what happened that it makes it almost impossible to follow unless you're taking notes. I get that she tries to make a lot of it a mystery for reveals later on, but it was to a point that I was questioning what was intentionally, I think is what we're trying, intentionally misleading, and what was actually pointless. No, I can actually kind of agree with her on some of these points. This one ended up getting like a 4.75 from me, I believe. I should really just give it a 5. But I agree that it is pretty difficult to understand at the beginning. And I think you as a reader, like you either like that style of book or you don't. Typically, I am of the same mind as this reviewer. And I don't love that. I don't like feeling lost. I think one thing that this novel could have done was have a glossary at the beginning, had some more context, information for you to look back on so you didn't get as confused. I think on a reread, this would end up actually being a 5-star for me, but really when I finished it was like a 4.5 because I did think it was a little too confusing. So honestly, overall, I respect and understand her thoughts and opinions here. And our final review. Who needs reading glasses when you can pick up this book and feel like you're reading through drunk simulation goggles? That's how wonky the world building was. Okay. I mean, strong first paragraph, strong. The entire plot centers around a set of trials that don't even occur until the last fourth of the book. But see, that's what keeps me reading. Like, I can understand that, but like most books are boring by 80%. Couldn't you agree? Like, at least something's happening in the final fourth. Premise entails shoving lower class citizens into trials and a grand display of royal superiority, sans the appropriate social political commentary. Have y'all read Hunger Games? Please. That trope always eats. Honestly, always. I also had major issues with the fact that the author picked a steadfast white colonizer as the love interest of the woman of color whose entire kingdom was destroyed by said colonizer. I'm kind of confused because I pictured them of the same race. I had pictured them from like maybe different societies, but I didn't picture it as like a colonizer romance. Like, from my perspective. I'm not trying to say that this person's opinion is incorrect, but that's not how I saw it. At no point did he express anything but disdain for her and desire to maintain military control over her country. An enemies to lovers romance story only works if you make the antagonist redeemable. I thought he was redeemable. Oh my gosh, do I just have bad taste in men? That's a discussion for a different time. Well, some of those were heavy hitters, y'all. We're gonna move to some reviews of Divine Rivals and just hope that they don't hurt my feelings quite as much. Some of those had good points though, so respect to y'all. Thank you for reading this book with a critical eye. I respect that. Moving to Divine Rivals. The world building, why we'd be obsessed with the world building? Sorry, hold on. The world building is so bad at some point. The main male character says he loves summer because it's when baseball season is back. They use lifts and have electricity, but use typewriters. The war resembles the fighting strategies they used in World War I, and there's magic and gods. The romance is horrible. See, like, I was gonna let you pop off, Queen. I was gonna let you, like, make your point, but, like, don't say the romance is terrible. Don't say that. The dialogue is so cheesy and cringe, it does not even allow you to have a cozy, fun read. It's just strange. I think some people just don't like romance and they haven't figured that out yet. Because, like, you just don't like romance if you didn't like this book. And that's okay. I do not understand the hype. I think we need to start reading more to acclaim better books. Okay? But you didn't even spell that out. Miss, we're gonna read better books. Anyways, because being over 25 and having this as a major literary favorite is just bad. Okay. This makes me want to dig into your Goodreads and see your highly rated books. You sound like you're no fun. I'll be honest, you sound like you don't like a good time. I'm just gonna move on because it could get a lot meaner than that. You are not fun. Let's move on. She writes letters like I did when I was heartbroken at 13 over my Minecraft boyfriend. Okay. Nah, you kind of ate with that. You ate with that one. I'll give that one to you. That one's fair enough. Another DNF. Okay, DNF at 57%. I feel like I've read a completely different book to everyone else. That's very uncreative. Everyone says that. Anyways, I went in with high expectations due to the hype, but ended up being disappointed. A great concept, but it was poorly done. I do think it is hard when some of these books have a ton of hype. It is hard to not be more critical of them, so I understand where you're coming from. The lack of world building made me feel disconnected from the entire story. The characters lacked depth and the dialogue was cringy, especially the letters. The plot stumbled along and the central war element was majorly underdeveloped. There was no suspense whatsoever for what you'd expect. What? While it's living through the war? While it's living through a war. I just don't get it. Aww. It hurts my feelings that you didn't enjoy it. Like, I feel bad for you because I wish you had liked it. I don't mind the lack of world building. Like, I feel like I don't always want it all spelled out, and this book allowed me to imagine my own world and kind of fit what she was describing into the world in my mind. I felt like I got to be more creative while reading it. I also thought the war was done fine. Like, I know things aren't explicitly spelled out, but it is a duology. So I was like, there's more to come. You don't need to know it all right now. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. That's why I ended up loving this one. Next, like if two teens met on Christian Mingle and then whined constantly. Oh, yeah, that one hurts. You don't love Roman? Oh my gosh. I'm embarrassed. Like, these reviews make me feel like my taste in men is kind of wildin'. But I loved Roman. I thought he was so sweet. And I don't think they whine. I think they're going through some really hard stuff. I don't know. Oh my goodness. Okay. Final Divine Rivals review. Feeling bamboozled, lied to, led astray. Okay. Stunted narration and cheesy dialogue. Really bland characters with an elaborate hidden identity romance, which was resolved really poorly. It kind of gave You've Got Mail to me, so I don't know, I didn't feel that way. World building that never made any sense. Y'all are thinking too hard. I think that's what I'm learning. Horrible pacing. How do you manage to have a war happening in the background of your story and make it boring? What? It wasn't boring. Nothing about this worked for me, and I wish I had just committed to the DNF. I wish you had too, because then I wouldn't have to read your 1-star review. All right, moving on. These last two are the ones that will hurt me the most. Hello, Editing Grace here. To let you know, you just finished part 1. I hope you enjoyed. At the time of filming this, I did not realize I would have so much to say and that it would turn into a 2-part situation, but I think this is for the best. This is just a dose of my stunning personality. And if you'd like to see more, part 2 is on its way. How am I supposed to work in these conditions? Truly. Bingley, come show face. You're gonna squeak. Come show face. See what I'm saying, you guys? You see what I'm talking about? Oh my gosh. Well, here's the sitch. Please go to part 2 if you enjoyed this. It'll be out next week. Let me know some of your hot takes on a few books in the comments. I'd love to hear and discuss with you. And as always, I gotta love you and leave you, but I'll see you in the next one. Cheers! Oh my gosh. It's a good thing he's cute.